Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Green Chemistry Education webinar series hosted by the Green Chemistry Commitment. My name is Derek Ward, and I am the Program Manager of Beyond Benign, a nonprofit organization dedicated to green chemistry education in K through 12, all the way through higher education. This webinar series is designed to highlight relevant topics in green chemistry education for faculty and students who are looking to adopt green chemistry in their courses and programs. We are broadcasting live and recording this session. Therefore, all attendees are in listen-only mode and all lines are muted. If you have a question, then please type a question into the question or chat box on your control panel for the moderators to view. We will respond to as many questions as we can after the presentation. The recording will also be posted on the link you see in the welcome box and at the bottom of this PowerPoint slide. Any supporting documents such as the presentation slides will also be posted at the link provided as well. For those of you who participate in social media, please connect with us on Twitter or Facebook. We love to hear some live tweeting going on during our webinar, so join in if you like. Thank you for joining us for this webinar and for taking part in the discussion. This webinar is being brought to you as part of the Green Chemistry Commitment Program, which is a consortium program aimed at transforming chemistry education, expanding the community of green chemistry practitioners, growing departmental resources for those looking to adopt green chemistry, improving connections to the industry, and effective systematic change in chemistry education. The program is a voluntary, flexible program for adopting green chemistry student learning objectives and for promoting the work that you are currently doing at your institution that can serve as a model for other institutions to get involved with green chemistry. You can find more information on the link provided, or you can email me directly at derek_ward@beyondbenign.org. We would like to give a shout out to all our ACS student chapters listening in right now. We are excited to announce that the Green Chemistry Commitment has partnered with the ACS Green Chemistry Institute and have registered this presentation along with a supplemental activity as an official event for all ACS student chapters trying to become green chemistry student chapters. And if you look at your control panel, there is a attached PDF, which is entitled EPA Safer Choice Activity. So go there and download the PDF if you are the ACS student chapter, so you can get credit as one of your 3 events that you need to participate in. As part of the webinar series, we also give away a green chemistry book at the conclusion of each webinar. We will announce the randomly selected winner at the end of the webinar, and we will send the book directly to you. The winner will receive an email from us requesting your contact information, and we will get the book sent to you as soon as possible. We are happy to have Dr. Bridget Williams and Randy Yakal join us for a discussion about the Safer Choice Program and their efforts in advancing green chemistry. I'd like to introduce them here briefly and then hand over the controls to them to get the presentation started. Dr. Bridget Williams has been with the EPA Safer Choice Program, which was formerly known as the Design for the Environment, since 2011. As part of the Safer Choice team, Bridget led the effort to develop the new Safer Choice label. She works with a broad range of stakeholders, including science and policy professionals, including manufacturers, retailers, and environmental advocacy groups, to improve the human and environmental health effects of chemical-intensive products. Prior to joining the EPA, she served as a Peace Corps volunteer in the West African country, Burkina Faso, where she taught high school physics and chemistry. Bridget has a PhD from the University of Washington and a BS from Colorado State University, both in chemistry. Randy Yakal is the newest member of the Safer Choice team, having joined the program in October 2017. He specializes in outreach, enforcement issues, including misuse of Safer Choice labels and web analytics. Prior to joining Safer Choice, Randy worked in EPA's Chemical Control Division, providing chemistry expertise in the drafting of regulations, maintaining the Interagency Testing Committee's Priority Testing List, or known as the PTL, for chemicals of concern, and serving as a public point of contact and project manager for isopropylated triphenyl phosphates. Randy was one of the first class of students in the nation to receive a master's degree in green chemistry from Chatham University in Pittsburgh, PA, where he also served as a life cycle assessment consultant for a startup company. Randy received his bachelor's degree in chemistry from Binghamton University in New York. And without further ado, I would like to introduce everyone to Dr. Bridget Williams and Randy Yakal.
All right, great. Thanks, Derek. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yep.
All right, great. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for organizing this and for having us. It's a real delight for us to be here. And I really wanted to point out our respect for Beyond Benign's mission and what you guys do in spreading the word of green chemistry, both for current scientists and up-and-coming scientists. And it's a really respectable, great thing. So keep up the great work. And we're really happy to be here and get you guys all up to speed with what our program is about, the Safer Choice Program. And what we've done with this presentation today is we've really tailor-made it for the science-minded crowd and the crowd of those aspiring scientists in the audience right now. So to really give you some insight into how we review our products, chemical ingredients, and we really hope you can enjoy it. So on that note, I'm going to pass it over to Bridget, who's going to give you the lay of the land of the presentation.
Perfect. Thanks, Randy, and thank you all for signing on to the webinar and listening. If you have any questions throughout our presentation, make sure you enter those into the chat box or ask them at the end. And also, as Derek mentioned, if you're live tweeting, the hashtag for Safer Choice is hashtag EPA Safer Choice. And if you use that hashtag, your tweet will show up on the Safer Choice homepage. And if you look at our title slide here, the URL is, we're going to go back to the title slide. The URL for our program is at the bottom of our label. It's epa.gov/Safer Choice. So today, Randy and I are going to walk you through a little bit of information about the Safer Choice Program. We're going to talk about the label and mention or explain what it means, and then walk you through the products we certify, our product review process, the standard that's behind the label, and our ingredient criteria for chemicals, and also two lists that we think you should be aware of: our Safer Chemical Ingredients List and Green Blue's Clean Ingredients Database. So Safer Choice is a voluntary program at EPA. Many of you have probably heard of our sister eco-labels, Energy Star and Water Sense. When you think of them, you have energy and you have water. Safer Choice is EPA's eco-label for chemical-intensive products. We primarily certify products that are chemically intensive, and what that means is they're either liquid or powder-based, such as cleaners or detergents. And it's important to point out that our program is voluntary. And what that means is product manufacturers come to us voluntarily. They disclose their whole formula to us and ask us to review their ingredients against our standard. And also, the voluntary nature of our program extends to consumers and purchasers of products who have the choice to look for our label. Our program works with manufacturers to help them develop products that meet our standard and criteria. And what's really fun about our program is we get to work with many stakeholders up and down the supply chain. So we're not only working with just the product manufacturers, but also their suppliers and the end users and purchasers too. Our focus is on safer chemical ingredients and which ingredients are on the green end of the safer spectrum. We also look at performance, packaging, and ingredient disclosure, which we'll talk a little bit about. And the best thing about Safer Choice from my perspective is it's green chemistry in action. So this is, when you see the Safer Choice label on a product, there's been a lot of innovation that has gone into the products that carry it on the green chemistry front. Safer solvents, safer surfactants, and other ingredients have been developed to meet Safer Choice criteria. So when you see the Safer Choice label on the product, not only should you think green chemistry innovation, but the product, it contains ingredients that are safer for you, your families, your communities, your pets, and the environment. It's also very important to point out that these products are safer for workers and workplaces. And when you think about workers, think about the building you're in, the people who clean your offices every day, or the hotel room you might stay at someday. Those workers are constantly exposed to chemical-based products. And so we're working to ensure that they have the safest possible ingredients. And it's also really important for our program that the products that carry the Safer Choice label actually perform. It's no help to anyone if a product that is claiming to be green or safer or some other environmentally friendly type attribute doesn't work. So prior to Safer Choice, we were known as Design for the Environment, and we had a nice little logo. It was very cute. It had a globe. It said Design for the Environment, US EPA. But it really didn't communicate what our program does. And in 2015, we launched our new label, and it came out. It had a great reception. Consumer Reports right away in May 2015 published this article on the right-hand side of this slide saying why they liked our new label. Also, a leading retailer surveyed their customers and found that a majority of them, almost 3/4 of them, would be willing to use the label to inform their purchasing decisions. We conducted a similar survey at EPA and found that about 35% of consumers say they've actually seen the Safer Choice label on store shelves. So if you haven't been looking for it, start now. I do every time I go into a store now. I can't help but look for it. And we also found that 3/4 of consumers would use the Safer Choice label. That number increases when you look at just parents and millennials to 83% and 86%. So that's pretty remarkable. This is a very powerful tool.
All right, so Bridget's really gotten into telling you what the label itself is about, and I'm going to start getting into more of what is it that's behind the label. It's the products, the ingredients. So first, getting into products, right now we have about 2,000 that have been certified from about 500 partners with our program. I'd like to point out the URL I've given at the top of the page that I'd encourage you all to visit that does list all of our products. Of that, we have about 700 in retail right now, meaning products that you yourself can go to the store and pull off the shelf and find. And the majority is the industrial and institutional products, or those products that are used to clean places like hotels and warehouses and offices. So if you look on the right side of the screen at those four, or the 3 labels there, you see the one in the center with the house. That is the label designated for our retail products, almost like saying for home use, whereas for industrial and institutional, you see it's the half circle to be easy to distinguish. And then finally, we have the newer fragrance-free label. So we have a huge variety of product types in different sectors that we've approved. The one that would stand out most would be what you'd expect, and that's the household cleaners, or all-purpose cleaners, dish detergents, glass cleaners. But we also get into hand soaps and health and beauty. We've just recently certified our first pet shampoo and pet care products. And we also have a stricter set of criteria for products that are used in outdoor applications, such as those released outdoors, like you can imagine de-icers, the salts you put on roads, athletic field paint, those things that go right into the environment without, say, wastewater treatment first, or things of that nature. So the product review process, typically we had previously done this in-house, EPA only, but as you can imagine, as we get into the range of thousands of products, we do eventually start to need a little bit of assistance, which is why we started to get what's called the third-party reviewers. So these are third-party companies that have the chemical and the science expertise to review our products against our criteria. They collect the performance information, and they develop these chemical profiles that were sent to them by the applicant for the party interested in getting a label on their product. So as the third-party reviewer goes through this process, they communicate back and forth with the applicant. And you'll notice here with the flow chart, we have our first loop here before they submit it to Safer Choice. And that is what gives them, or really, it's a good opportunity to keep making iterative improvements on the product before it even ends up with us. And then once it even does, you see that it could still be sent back to the applicant. So it's always pushing products to be the best that they possibly can. Once we receive our information from the third-party reviewer, we do a quality assessment on that information, make sure it meets our Safer Choice criteria for health and the environment. We discuss the assessment with both the applicant and the third-party reviewer, and then we finally decide, does it meet our Safer Choice standard? And once we think that it does, we sign an agreement and we allow them to put a label on their product.
And I just want to chime in here and say that the communication with a product manufacturer or a chemical supplier is so key to our program. Working with them and understanding their needs for performance and helping them find alternatives is really what our program does best.
So to give you an idea of what exactly that Safer Choice standard they must meet is, I'll first say again that, and we'll probably say this a bunch of other times, we review every chemical ingredient in these products. And we have, as Bridget mentioned, the product level requirements like performance, making sure that they're up to par with some of the better performers in their field, some sustainable guidelines for packaging, and full ingredient disclosure on their labels, and if not on their labels, on a call-in number or on their website, so full ingredient transparency. You can see on the company level, and this was on that slide as well, you'll see that they have the partnership agreement with us that gets renewed every 3 years, along with annual audits run by our third-party profilers, desk audit and on-site audit, to make sure everything declared in their products lined up with what we know. And a link to that standard and a whole wealth of information is in that link there. Getting into the product level part of our standard, we have our ingredient disclosure, but the VOCs will check the pH of that, or not we, the profilers, will check the pH of that full end product. Synergistic effects, so not what individual chemicals can do, but maybe 2 or 3 or more can be working in tandem to have an effect we might not have expected. So really a full look at the combined product. And then getting into the heart and soul of the program is our ingredient level criteria, which Bridget can tell you about more here.
So when our program thinks about chemical ingredients in products, we're not thinking about them as compared to all chemicals in the universe. We focus on what we call their functional class. So we compare chelants with chelants, colorants and fragrances with the fragrances, oxidants and solvents and surfactants with within their respective functional class. And this is important because not all functional classes of chemicals will have the same typical endpoints. And to give you an example of that, surfactants by their nature tend to be very aquatically toxic. And so for our program, a safer surfactant would be one that has the least amount of aquatic toxicity, but also has a really fast rate of biodegradation. Whereas for a chemical that's serving as, say, a defoamer, or has some kind of a polymer that's serving some type of function where it needs to hang around for a while, biodegradation is the last endpoint that you want that chemical to have a fast biodegradation. You want it to stay. So it's a balance, and when we're looking at a chemical, we have these functional class criteria that they have to meet. If it doesn't fall into one of these functional class criteria, then we review it against our master criteria. And we have a very long link here where you can go and see all of the endpoints that our program looks at. So Randy mentioned this, and we'll probably say it a few more times. So our program looks at every chemical. When a product manufacturer submits a formula to us, frequently we don't have the complete picture, and we have to contact their suppliers to find out what else might be in that formula. And sometimes we have to go and talk to suppliers of suppliers to get a complete picture. We have no de minimis, so any intentionally added ingredient, regardless of percentage, must meet our criteria. We do look at things like impurities and residuals, and it's very important to us that if a preservative or a stabilizer is added upstream, that those preservatives and ingredients also meet our criteria. And so just want to give you a quick snapshot of what we look at in our chemical review process. So when we look at a chemical, of course, we're looking at pChem properties. And then we also, it's very important, the tox data and tox profile for each chemical. And so on the right of the slide, you'll see some human health effects and environmental effects that we look for. So under human health is the chemical CMR, carcinogen, mutagen, reproductive toxicants, the repeat dose or chronic toxicity. And on environmental fate, is it a PBT? Is it persistent, bioaccumulative, and toxic? And we're not only considering just the chemical itself, but we're also looking at any potential degradation products. So a chemical ingredient might meet our criteria, but it may degrade quickly into a chemical that does not meet our criteria. So we're looking at that endpoint very carefully as well. So when we are assessing a chemical against our Safer Choice standard, it's very important for us to have a complete picture of the toxicology and any chemical studies that might be out there. So we do a full literature review. We are also identifying any analogs or degradants, metabolites that may be important. And then when we're looking at a certain endpoint, if there is not experimental data, we then rely on EPA's expertise in assessing chemicals. And just to paint a better picture, I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning, our program is located in the Office of Pollution Prevention and Toxics here at EPA. So our office regulates products under the Toxic Substances Control Act. And we rely on the expertise of many in our office when we're assessing chemicals. And at this point, you can see some of our tools that we use here, our EPA Suite, EcoSAR models. And then we also do something called read across. And if you've never heard of that, basically you're taking an analog, and if you don't have data for a specific endpoint, you're looking at an analog to the chemical that you're assessing, so something that looks somewhat similar, and seeing if there's any data for an endpoint on that chemical. And then in the absence of data, that's your best guess. So just want to give you a quick snapshot of what our acute mammalian toxicity requirements are for a product. So when we're looking at thresholds, so if a chemical, it has a threshold of an oral LD50 above 2,000, then it would meet our criteria. And I mentioned surfactants earlier, and here is exactly what I was talking about with respect to the aquatic toxicity and the rate of biodegradation. So this slide might be a little bit hard for you to see, but it's all available on our website. Essentially what this slide is showing is that if a chemical has a clog toxicity, an LC50 less than 1 ppm, it might be acceptable in our program if the biodegradation is within a 10-day window. Between 1 and 10 ppm, it has to be within the 10-day window, and greater than 10 ppm, we would require 28-day biodegradation. So this slide is a nice illustration of how Safer Choice approaches our chemical review. So on the left-hand side, we have 2-butoxyethanol. It's a listed chemical. It's on California's OSHA hazardous substances list. It has some health concerns here, listed in the second bullet, and would not be allowed in Safer Choice certified products. So it does not meet our criteria. On the right-hand side is 2-propoxyethanol. Now, this isn't a widely recognized chemical. It's not listed anywhere. But if you were a product manufacturer and you were trying to remove 2-butoxyethanol from your product, you might think that 2-propoxyethanol would be an okay substitute because it's not listed. However, when we look at the data behind this chemical, it has similar health concerns. And so this chemical also would not be allowed in Safer Choice certified products. So for this type of situation, it was important to our program to help manufacturers better navigate this space. And to do so, we developed a very unique tool, our Safer Chemical Ingredients List. And Randy is going to tell you a little bit about that.
So our Safer Chemical Ingredients List, or SCIL, is a living list of right now over 900 safer chemicals arranged by functional use that have been shown to meet our safer chemical criteria and that we've determined to be safer than traditional chemical ingredients in that space. Now, as an important disclaimer, there are tens of thousands of chemicals on the market today, probably even closer to 100,000. Just because chemicals aren't on SCIL doesn't mean that they don't qualify for the program. It means it's possible that they just haven't been looked at yet. So this is a list of chemicals that we have looked at and saying that they do pass our criteria. So on this list right now, it's about 918 chemicals and 987 listings. Now those numbers don't match up because there are some repeats, such as the example of citric acid is both a chelating agent and a pH adjusting additive. So when you go on to our Safer Chemical Ingredients list using that link, that was a couple slides ago, something I'd also encourage looking at. You can see we have our geocodes, which I'll go into in a moment, and then we have all of our functional use classes there, and also a search function where you can use the name of the chemical or its CAS number. So these color codes, what you really want to see is the green circle, something that we expect to be of low hazard based on mostly experimental and some model data. As you start to get into relying on more of the modeling data rather than experimental, we give it the green half circle, where additional data would strengthen us, like additional experimental data would strengthen our confidence, but we do give it the green half circle, but still an okay rating. The yellow triangle also meets our criteria, but does present some hazard profile issues. But interestingly, if you see a product class that is mostly populated by yellow triangles, you can say, hey, this presents a place in these products that there is room for improvement or green chemical innovation.
And before we move on, I just want to point out that if you go to our Safer Chemical Ingredients list and open up preservatives, for example, you'll see many green circles, but you'll also see a lot of yellow triangles. And those yellow triangle chemicals are necessary to allow preservation of products at within a full pH range. So take a look at that.
Or if you click on the surfactants class, you'll see a page like this. There is more than just 4 on there. There's a small snapshot. But you can see it gives an immediate list of chemicals that have gone through a review process, or I should say surfactants, and they've all been given that green circle. So if those were chosen in an ingredient formulation, you know that that probably wouldn't present a problem in your product.
Especially for our product review.
Yeah.
And then I also want to point out on here that under functional use, you'll see surfactants is a link. If you're curious about the criteria that these chemicals have had to meet, go ahead and click that surfactant link, and that will take you to our ingredient criteria page.
Now, to get these chemicals listed on skill, it's very similar to what I showed you before in the last flow chart for the product review. It could be a raw ingredient supplier, a chemical manufacturer will submit the information on the chemical, or if it was in a product as an ingredient, to the third-party profiler. It goes through that same criteria analysis, which is then submitted to us, much like before. And once we do agree with the third-party profiler that it meets our criteria, it will go on skill. So much like skill, clean ingredients is a little bit different. So we do deal with some suppliers out there who work in proprietary ingredients, say a surfactant blend. So things like that, since they're not individual chemicals, don't go on skill, but instead wind up on Green-Blue's clean ingredients list for people formulating these products to choose from, which is also a good marketing tool for those suppliers that lets them get those chemicals out there to show that they're easily available to formulating green products.
And the great thing about clean ingredients is that if a manufacturer is looking at the clean ingredients database, they know that a chemical that's listed on skill has actually been reviewed and everything about it meets our criteria. And I just want to point out that one CAS number can represent multiple chemicals. And not all chemicals within that CAS number may meet our criteria. And you'll see here we have an example, an EO-PO ratio. So that's the ethoxylation-propoxylation ratio for surfactants. So that ratio has a direct impact on how fast a surfactant might biodegrade. And as I mentioned before, biodegradation is really important for this functional use. So it's really important that we review every chemical, even if it's listed on skill, just to make sure that it does meet our criteria.
And with that, that's all the information we have for you as the overview of our program. I hope you guys enjoyed it and got a lot out of it. Here at the bottom of the page is the main link to our home page, which then easily leads into the rest of those links. So I'd encourage you all to give our site a browse, and there's a lot of useful tools there for you. So Derek, thank you very much.
No, thank you. Yeah, it was a great presentation, and it was full with, I think, a lot of useful information that our audience has been looking to kind of understand better and you know, apply it into whatever setting they feel is appropriate. And then so now we will go ahead and open the floor for some questions. So I'd like to hand over the controls to Amy, and then Amy can just go ahead and I guess say some of the questions that have come in from our audience.
Yeah, so we do have some questions that have been coming in, which is great. So feel free to type it in there. We do have some good amount of time. So, and thank you both for that presentation. That was wonderful. First question, which is kind of easy to answer: can these slides be made available? Yes, we're waiting for approval, but they should be posted on the link where the recording is. And if you registered for this, you will automatically be sent an email tomorrow with the recording link where the supporting slides will also be made available as well. I'll go down the list here. Any plans to expand into the building and construction market? For example, do-it-yourself, DIY retail products.
Oh, that's a great question. We are always looking at opportunities to expand into new product sectors. What we really need for that type of activity is partners. So we need a manufacturer that is willing to work with us to help us understand the chemistries involved and to essentially be our guinea pig. We do see potential for going into paints or adhesives, caulking. There's a lot of opportunities in that space.
Great. Next one, how many third-party reviewers are there and who are they?
Oh, another good question.
We currently have 4 third-party profilers. That's NSF International, Tox Services LLC, Gradient, and Cadmus.
And their contact information is available on our website under Resources for Manufacturers. And when you click that link, it'll take you to a page and look for how to get the label on my product. And it's under step 2 on that page. Wow.
That's great. Okay. Are you looking at the toxicity and hazards of the whole product as well as the individual ingredients, for the whole product as well as the individual ingredients to account for any synergistic effects?
That's another good question. We are focused on the inherent hazards of each chemical ingredient. For the whole product toxicity, we do not require testing to get that. We do cover synergistic effects through our review. There are some that are fairly well known out there that we tend to catch quite frequently. An example would be D-limonene and hydrogen peroxide. We do not like to see those together.
Interesting. Okay, great. Has Safer Choice been considered as a program for LEED credits?
Oh, that is a great question. We are in LEED. We are in LEED version 4 EBOM. It may be tricky to find. I have a nice bit.ly URL. If you go onto LEED site and you can't find it, send me an email or Randy. We would be happy to get you that information.
Awesome. Yeah, and if anyone needs their contact information, just feel free to email Derek or I. Are there any plans to expand the types of products into more beauty and personal care categories?
Oh, another good question. So we currently label hand soaps, and we have received a lot of interest on going into personal care products. We would like to do that, and we are currently talking with FDA on how that would work. Just so you, for those of you not familiar, our office is, I mentioned that we regulate under TSCA, which covers cleaning products and those types of things. FDA actually has authority over personal care products, so we would need to work with them.
That's a good point. Is there a hazard product to non-hazardous replacement cross-reference crosswalk for industries? Does that make sense?
Could you repeat that, please?
Is there a hazardous product to non-hazardous replacement? I think more of like a cross-reference or crosswalk for industries. So
I think I understand.
Yeah.
So that's what our safer chemical list is trying to get at. So if you have a surfactant or a solvent that you're looking to replace, our safer chemical ingredients list is a really good first step. It may not get you the functionality that you need, like a crosswalk, I think that the questioner is asking about. And of course, that's going to depend on each individual product, but it will give you an idea of the types of chemistry that might meet our criteria.
Okay, thank you. Are you aware of whether these product labels are exported to Canada?
We are, and they are. So the Safer Choice label is out there internationally, including Canada, also in Asian markets and South American markets, I believe Mexico and other places. But I hear we're really big in Asia.
That's great. Is there a comparable program that FDA administers for the product categories they oversee?
There is not no, I don't believe so.
Well, there's an opportunity. Okay, oh, we do have another one coming in. They're still coming in here. This is impressive. These are great questions. Do you have an idea of portion of sales in cleaners or other product groups that have Safer Choice labels?
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you repeat the beginning of that?
So it's the portion of sales. So do you have an idea of it sounds like if there's a difference in the portion of sales in cleaners or any other product group that have Safer Choice labels? So I guess it's probably more about, are consumers choosing those, and do you have any of that data yet?
We do not have those data yet. However, I understand that Nielsen is now tracking Safer Choice certification at the point of sale. So that's interesting.
Yeah, that is. Okay, and while I pause just a second to see if there's any final ones, I'm gonna, our winner of the book, which I seem to have lost, their contact information is Amanda Carroll. So Amanda, we'll be sending you an email. And with that, I think we've gone through all of the questions that have come in. So I'm going to hand it back over to you, Derek.
Okay. Again, well, thank you, Amy. And I think, yeah, we would just like to thank everyone for tuning in for today's webinar. And again, if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me, Amy, and then I know that the door is open for also Bridget and Randy too, if there's any questions you guys have later on. And we look forward to hope that this information was beneficial to you guys, and we want to thank everyone for coming and joining in. But before we get off here, we would also like to say that we do have a upcoming webinar as well, March 6th, which is entitled the Green Chemistry Resource Guide for Organic Chemistry Lab Course. So it's a guide for both instructors and students in collaboration with my Green Lab, Beyond Benign, and Millipore Sigma. So that's going to be our next upcoming webinar, and we think that's going to be a great one as well. So we do have the link provided there. And with that, we would like to once again thank everyone for attending the webinar, and once again would like to thank Dr. Bridget Williams and Randy Yakal for putting this information together for us.
Our pleasure, Derek. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.